Okay, so in this video I want to discuss an article which was by Alvin Goldman, published in 1967. Pretty much, this article is called A Causal Theory of Knowing. It's in quite a bit of anthologies, but it's in this one, which I think is a great one by Dretsky and the other person, I forget his name, Bernecker, by Oxford. This is an awesome one. It's also in various other ones. So, turn to this here. What I have written. Apologize if anything covers this up. Okay, so first off, this article is in reply to an article by Edmund Gettier, which is called "Is Justified True Belief Knowledge?" That is an article which I do have a video about. It pretty much, I like to think that it has crippling epistemology. Because before that, this whole formulation was granted that S knows that P if variations of S, or that P is true, S believes in P, and S is justified in believing P. So the whole thing of S being justified in believing that P, being justified in this thing being true, and S believing P, adds up to S knowing that P. And when Gettier came along in his little paper that he published in Analysis, like a 2-page paper that he wrote in his grad school years, basically it crippled this whole thing. And the thing that S knows that P, given justified true belief, this wasn't really granted anymore. So Goldman is pretty much responding to Gettier and kind of giving his own little formulation of knowledge. And I'm gonna get to these diagrams in a minute. There's quite a few diagrams in this article, but I've chosen to put 2 on the board to explain. So basically, following Gettier, epistemology kind of just centered on figuring out what knowledge is and figuring out what justification is, and that's pretty much what that is. So, for understanding contemporary epistemology in the 60s to today, I highly recommend reading Gettier's paper as well as Goldman's paper. Then Goldman has a paper following that. Had a paper following that which is called "What is Justified Belief," which he has a different externalist theory, but this one I think is very interesting. And in that article, what is justified belief, he kind of develops a historical reliabilism, which is also externalism, which is different from this, but I would say quite similar. So one thing, the basic thing to know about this, it's called a causal theory of knowing, is because knowledge is granted by, or it comes by, having appropriate causal chains, because the beliefs and our belief of it have to have appropriate causal connections and causal chains between each other. So we have to have basically appropriate causal connection, good appropriate causal chains between the beliefs and our believing of them, and as to how we come to it. So the belief itself and how we get to the belief, this Q and this R. So we're basically talking about P here. How we get to believing P, be it Q and R, and having that, I'm going to explain what R and Q are. And I'm going to explain a good example. There's quite a few examples here, but I'm going to explain one. So these 4 things here: knowledge by appropriate causal chains. What is that made of? First, we have perception. He states that we gain knowledge through perception non-inferentially, and he does talk a little bit about non-inferential knowledge, and he is a foundationalist in that kind of. He talks about that a little, and the issue of whether there's inferential knowledge or not is another one which should be discussed elsewhere. Even though he does discuss it a bit. Perception, of course, memory, which is a result of previous perceptions, causal chains of 1 and 2, of these two together, creating that, and also a combination of all of these three, creating good and appropriate causal connections. So before I explain the example that he gives, and also these diagrams, I'm going to explain what externalism is. I have a video called, which is basically the introduction to externalism, which is elsewhere. Actually, I have a playlist which is called epistemology, which to go to those to understand this and to understand Gettier, and I do have videos on those things. So to give a brief brief intro on what externalism is. We have externalism and we have internalism. Goldman does not agree with internalism. He is a externalist. What internalism is, the basic granted way of talking about internalism is us having cognitive access to the justification of our beliefs. Another way of looking at it is mental states and having knowledge of and being which is like mentalism, having certain mental states which justify our beliefs. That the whole mentalism thing is by Richard Feldman and Earl Connie, which is a paper written later, but mostly it's by cognitive access. We have the key word between these two things is cognitive access. Do we or can we have cognitive access to the justification of our beliefs or not? These guys say yes we can and do. These guys say yes we can't, or no we cannot, and no we do not. The externalists like Goldman say that the justification of our beliefs comes by appropriate causal connection, which is external because we don't have cognitive access to how this is all justified, but it's by appropriate causal connections, which is external. Another way is process reliabilism, which is Goldman's what is justified belief. That's his, and there are many other thinkers or epistemologists who talk about process reliabilism, or also virtue reliabilism. For virtue reliabilism, see Zagzebski and Greco. That's the two I can think of. But externalists, they're talking about justification, which does not have it, which has nothing to do with the this stuff has nothing to do with the causal connection, or it has nothing to do with sorry if you can't see part of the board here. I'm sorry about that. These little causal connections, they have nothing to do with with cognitive access, the internal cognitive access of the justification of our beliefs. The way that we for the externalists like Goldman, the way that we gain knowledge is by having good causal connections. If there's a gap here, like we take out one of these things, or something even like basically one of these B things, then we don't have justification, and even less, we don't have knowledge. So that I'm trying to explain why this is external and not internal. Hopefully you can understand that. Hopefully this is kind of easy to get why this is external, that how causal chains are external, and how that it's not internal to have appropriate causal connection. If you have issues with that, if you have issues as to how this stuff is external and not internal, comment below. I will explain it better. So these are two diagrams taken from Goldman's text. This one is by Lehrer, another great epistemologist. I'm talking about these little double lines. They are logical they are logical connections. So to the example, Goldman gives a few. He gives a classic example of a man and his son driving through a county which has mostly barn facades, or like a facade being like a stand-up picture of a barn, things that look like barns but aren't. And there is one actual barn in there, in that county that they are driving through. However, the rest of them are facades. So the question with that example is, how do they have knowledge? How do the man and his son have knowledge that the one barn that is actually there is a barn, or is it a facade? So how do they have knowledge that it's a barn or not? So that's one example. The example I prefer to use is the one about the lava. So we have somebody seeing lava in the countryside. Goldman also uses examples from Gettier, of course. I'm going to use the one about the lava that he gives. So he sees in the county dried up lava, or basically solidified lava in there. So basically that's what this is. This is the formulation of the lava example. This P is a belief that a volcano erupted there centuries ago. So we have this belief here, which is about the lava having, or is about the mountain having erupted. This Q belief is the perception of seeing the solidified lava, that black igneous rock there. So this B, the S is the person, and the B is the belief. This is the belief of S in Q that there is lava in the county, or solidified magma or lava in the county. This belief in R, this is background information. This is info as to how magma gets there, as to how magma solidified, as to how lava solidifies and becomes that black igneous rock. So we have this background info. So the belief in there being solidified magma there, along with background info as to how magma gets there, leads to this belief that a mountain erupted there centuries ago. So you can see how it's raining really hard outside right now. Sorry about that. Sorry if you can hear that. You can see how this is an appropriate causal chain. This is a dotted line because it's inferential. So you can see how this is an appropriate causal chain, and he says that we gain knowledge by having such appropriate causal chains. And he has like maybe 5 diagrams in the article, maybe more, and they are all interesting to kind of think about. Epistemology is kind of about giving examples and talking about things as to how problems with knowledge and problems with all this stuff. So down to this one, these double lines are logical connections. So what makes up appropriate causal chains? Number one, the causal chains itself, 2 inferences, and 3 logical connections. So this dotted line means inference, and this double line is logical connections. The whole logical connection was by Keith Lehrer, like I said before. So the belief Q and R is logically connected to belief in Q, P, and R, and this leads to the belief of S in Q and the belief of S in R, leading to the inference of the belief of S in Q plus R, and the belief of S in S plus a different an extra background belief, leading to S's belief in P. So you can see how we get from here to here, hopefully. This is what I've seen as important in this article. So if you think I've messed something up or left something out, please comment below. The reason I do this is to help myself out, for you guys to, or for anybody who's watching to kind of see this and see if I've left anything out, and to critique me, and for me and you to learn things. So that's the reason I do this. So any constructive criticism you have, I want. So I'll